Mother was bought by father from a brothel. He often gave her to his subordinates to play with. In the spring, when I was 8, she was finally tortured beyond recognition, clinging to life by a thread. Hua hua. Find a chance to escape. Go to the capital to find His Majesty. He is your maternal uncle. I didn't take her words seriously. Instead, I struggled to put her torn dress back on. She had always been a dignified woman. Mother, don't talk nonsense. Hua Hua will go find a doctor right away. In the end, Mother died. I had finally managed to dress her properly, but she insisted I take her to the peach blossom tree in the yard. She said, 9 years ago, she had promised to meet someone under a peach blossom tree in the southern suburbs of the capital, but she broke that promise. But we're in Yangzhou. How could the peach blossom tree here be the same as the one in the southern suburbs of the capital? Mother's eyes reddened, but she stayed silent. It broke my heart to see her like that. I could only muster all my strength to carry her out of the house. But after all, I was only 8 years old. I couldn't carry her any longer. Stumbling and falling onto the grassy courtyard, after just a few steps, Mother lay fallen amidst the shower of blossoms. Her exquisite features were more radiant than the peach blossoms themselves. I scrambled up from the mud, but when I went to hold her again, she had already stopped breathing. Mother, I buried Mother beneath the peach tree. I didn't tell Father, afraid he might dig her up and discard her in the pauper's grave. I wanted to stay close to Mother, so by day, I kept watch by the peach tree. At night, I slept beneath it, wrapped in the little quilt Mother had made for me. No one brought me food. No servant remembered that in this forgotten corner of the estate, there remained an unwanted child born of a courtesan, nor did I seek out anything to eat. Mother was dead. There seemed little point in my going on. To an 8-year-old child, a mother is the entire world. After 2 days, I grew too weak from hunger, yet I was happy. Soon, I would be able to see Mother again. I've thought about slitting my throat with a knife, but I was afraid Mother would be heartbroken to see my ghastly appearance. So I planned to starve myself to death. That should leave a more presentable corpse. These past 2 days, I've been gradually moving Mother's clothes from the house to beneath the peach blossom tree, piling them together, intending to burn them for her. She used to bathe many times a day. One set of clothes would never be enough. While searching for flint in her dressing table, I found a small box, made of sandalwood, its edges polished to a shine from years of handling. Clearly, it had accompanied Mother for many years. When I opened it, there was no gold or silver inside, only a broken peach blossom hairpin and half of a snow-white handkerchief. The handkerchief was embroidered with a peach blossom, the stitches fine and delicate, gentle like Mother's hands when she used to comb my hair. Beneath it lay a yellowed slip of paper, covered densely in tiny, meticulous script. I don't know many characters, but I recognize the words. The capital, meet beneath the peach blossom tree, twin, flame birds, and to Amanda. Amanda was Mother's childhood name, but Father always cursed her as worthless wench and never called her by that name. Wind filtered through the peach leaves, rustling softly. I pressed the paper against my chest, recalling the words Mother spoke before her death. Enter the palace. Find His Majesty. At the time, I thought Mother was delirious. But what if she spoke the truth? I looked up weakly at the peach tree in the courtyard. Suddenly, I didn't want to die so much anymore. Those who humiliated Mother still live. Why should I be the one to die? If His Majesty truly is my maternal uncle, then not a single soul in this Yangzhou magistrate's residence deserves to live. At this thought, a sudden excitement stirred within me. I secretly chiseled a hole in the backyard and crawled out. It was 8 years later when I finally met His Majesty. By then, the Jiangnan naval forces had just defeated the Japanese pirates, pursued them back to their islands, and overthrew their king. Upon returning, the fleet was ambushed by Goguryeo, prompting General Ryan Zhao to crush Goguryeo in retaliation. This battle shook the court and the public. His Majesty ordered the Empress to host a victory banquet in the Imperial Garden and summoned the main forces of the Jiangnan Navy. And I happened to be the strategist by Ryan Zhao's side, Hua Mantion. When His Majesty caught sight of my face, he was abruptly startled. It wasn't just His Majesty. All the civil and military officials in the court stared at my face and were equally stunned. As I looked at His Majesty's face, my heart also skipped a beat. Even the crown prince beside His Majesty darkened his expression, because His Majesty and I shared nearly the same face. At that moment, I realized my mother might not have been lying to me after all. So it was true. A nephew resembles his uncle. Moreover, I was disguised as a man and standing beside His Majesty. We looked just like father and son, but because of this, the entire court, including His Majesty and the crown prince, fell into a deep misunderstanding. His Majesty guiltily shifted his eyes and sneakily glanced at the cold-faced Her Majesty the Empress beside him. He cleared his throat lightly. Qua Mantion, your mother. Ahem. His Majesty's question was interrupted by Her Majesty the Empress's cough. Her gaze, sharp as ice, fell directly upon my face. Your Majesty, strategist Hua, despite her youth, has achieved such merit. Her future is boundless. We must not waste such talent, especially with the northwest border under pressure. I raised a brow slightly. Was the Empress mistaking me for His Majesty's romantic entanglement and trying to exile me? That won't do. I worked too hard to reach the capital. Just as I prepared to explain, His Majesty shot a cold glare at the Empress. Empress, the inner court does not interfere in state affairs. The Empress stiffened, turning her face away in resentment. Yet, she ultimately lowered her head in submission. This subject has overstepped. His Majesty sighed, bypassing me to discuss the naval battle details with General Ryan Zhao instead. Ryan Zhao, merely 20, had delicate features, but sun, darkened skin, and a muscular build. The typical look of a coastal fisherman. The naval forces he led were actually the most criticized division of the Jiangnan fleet. To put it bluntly, the most incompetent and troublesome elements of the Jiangnan Navy were all kicked out and placed under his command. Originally, his task was simply to lead this group in proper drills and keep them from causing trouble, until they saved me, who was nearly cut down by Japanese pirates. Ryan Zhao, carried away by excitement, proudly pushed me before His Majesty. A few years ago, the coastal regions saw no rain for seasons, compounded by rampant Japanese pirates, as people faced the brink of resorting to unthinkable measures to survive. This lad insisted on going to sea to catch yellow croakers and sell them cheaply to the folks. We laughed at him, thinking yellow croakers weren't so easy to catch. Who would have thought? As he tapped a tune on the ship's rail, the waters swarmed with them. Good heavens. After several rounds of drinks, Ryan Zhao was thoroughly tipsy from toasts by the officials. He started blurting out anything and everything. Your Majesty, Hua Montian's mind is truly a mystery. When we first rescued him, he was a complete fool, so terrified by the Japanese pirates that he wet himself. But after bringing him into the army, he'd freeze in his tracks whenever the old strategist lectured. Heh, the pupil has surpassed the master, but in the worst way. His head is now filled with nothing but venomous schemes, and I suspect his heart has turned just as black. Your Majesty, I've fallen ill. I dream of him sleeping beside me every night. He must have bewitched me. You must grant me justice. Woo woo, could you take pity on me and bestow us with a marriage decree? His Majesty. Me. A marriage decree is out of the question, though His Majesty had sipped some wine. He was far from drunk. He just stared at Ryan Zhao, all with utter disdain, even a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. Understandable. My face, after all, undeniably bears the mark of royalty. And here I am, disguised as a man. Ryan Zhao's behavior tonight screams of a cut, sleeve affair, an outright embarrassment to the imperial family. After the banquet concluded, His Majesty initially intended to detain me privately. I also wanted to reveal my identity to him, but Her Majesty the Empress suddenly vomited blood and fainted, frightening His Majesty and the Crown Prince so much that they had to send me away first. His Majesty carried the unconscious Empress and hurried to Weiyang Palace. While the imperial physician reported to him, Her Majesty the Empress likely suffered a severe emotional shock that aggravated her old illness. The Crown Prince passed by me, giving me an icy glance. His gaze was cold and sharp, as if it could pierce right through me. There are countless paths in this world, yet you insist on choosing the one that leads to ruin. If anything happens to Mother today, I will not let you off. I hurried after him, but his steps were too swift, and it took me a long time to finally catch up and block him in a secluded path of the Imperial Garden. Your Highness, things are not as you and Her Majesty think. My mother said I should call His Majesty my maternal uncle. Maternal uncle? The Crown Prince halted his steps, but his gaze grew even colder than before. The Great Yong Kingdom has only one eldest princess, who is currently recuperating at her retreat palace. She has one son and one daughter, both of whom grew up alongside me. I've certainly never heard of my paternal aunt having a daughter as old as you. Unless, he narrowed his eyes, looking at me with undisguised mockery. Unless your mother was. The Crown Prince gave a cold laugh, dismissed his attendants, and leaned close to whisper in my ear. Unless your mother is Amanda Dugu, the one who, 16 years ago, was stripped of her nobility by His Majesty for vile conduct, including poisoning her own sister and younger brother. Amanda Dugu? I froze in shock. Mother said her name was Amanda. Could she be the person the Crown Prince spoke of? Seeing my stunned expression, the Crown Prince placed a hand on my shoulder and gave it a light pat. His Majesty holds a particular loathing for Amanda Dugu. You, tread carefully. With that, he snorted coldly and strode swiftly toward Weiyang Palace. I stood rooted in place, watching him depart. The breeze from the Imperial Garden brushed softly against my face. Though it was a warm summer breeze, it chilled me to the bone. That vile Amanda Dugu, who poisoned her sister and her own brother, demoted to commoner status, poisoning her own brother. Wouldn't that mean poisoning His Majesty himself? If that's true, no wonder she was stripped of her title. But Mother was the gentlest soul in this world, even trapped in that den of wolves. Enduring endless suffering, she would gently sew little clothes for me and teach me to read and write. She'd pick the unspoiled parts from our meals and feed them to me first. Whenever she had a spare moment, she'd tell me the most fantastical stories. How could that same mother be someone vile enough to harm her own flesh and blood? I refused to believe it. Hua hua. So, this is where you've been. I've been searching everywhere for you. Ryan Zhao, utterly drunk, crawled out from behind the rockery and clung to me like an octopus. Impossible to shake off, no matter how hard I pushed. Hua, you smell so nice. If only you were a woman. Sigh. Back in Jiangnan, this guy could drink 1,000 cups and never get drunk. How did you get this drunk just by arriving in the capital? Is the alcohol here somehow different? Tastes about the same to me. I sighed and resignedly helped him out of the palace gate, taking a carriage back to the inn. The carriage wheels rumbled over the cobblestone road, creating a rhythmic jostling sound. Ryan Zhao flopped against me like a boneless snake, nuzzling his head against my shoulder while muttering drunken nonsense, his boozy breath mixing with the sultry summer night air. I pinched the bridge of my nose, forcing myself to ignore him. Sighing again, I lifted a corner of the window curtain. Outside, the palace walls loomed majestic, their glazed tiles gleaming coldly under the moonlight like a silent, slumbering beast. 8 years ago, when I crawled out of a dog hole in the Yangzhou magistrate's residence, I'd planned to walk all the way to the capital and beg my maternal uncle to avenge Mother. But I ran into Japanese pirates ransacking villagers along the way and nearly got killed myself. If not for meeting Ryan Zhao, I'd never have had the chance to stand before His Majesty like this today. Hua hua. Do you think His Majesty will really bestow a marriage? Ryan Zhao suddenly lifted his head, eyes half open and half closed, cheeks flushed with an unnatural warmth. Actually, being brothers is fine too. It's just that I always dream of you in women's clothing at night. I curled my fingers and gave him a sharp knock on the forehead. Shut up and go to sleep. He winced in pain, but instead snuggled closer into my embrace. Like a large dog begging for a scolding, I was speechless. Is this really the same Zhao, the king of hell who dominated the seas and struck fear into the hearts of pirates and Japanese pirates? From now on, he must not be allowed to touch any alcohol in the capital. Back at the inn, after handing Ryan Zhao over to his personal guards, I finally returned to my own room. It being June, the weather was stiflingly hot. As soon as I entered, a wave of oppressive heat hit me. I opened the window for some fresh air, but the moment I opened the window, in the silent night sky outside the window, a sudden whooshing sound pierced the air. Immediately after, a sharp arrow thudded into the window frame, a note tied to its tip. My heart clenched as I snatched the note. Unfolding it, I saw only one word written: flee, flee. After exhausting every scheme and achieving such great military merits, I could finally stand before His Majesty openly and honorably. Why should I flee? Recalling the scene of Mother being humiliated by many before her death, my grip on the note tightened again and again. A princess of a nation, even if demoted to commoner status, should never have met such an end and outcome. Mother, Hua Hua will make those people pay in blood. The next day, during the morning court, His Majesty summoned Ryan Zhao again, appointing him as Grand Admiral of the Seas. Several generals who followed him were also promoted one after another. Only I was not mentioned at all by His Majesty. When Ryan Zhao and the generals returned, they noticed my absence and learned from the guards that I had not left my room since entering the previous night. Ryan Zhao stood at my door, stroking his chin. Could Hua Hua have been frightened by my confession of feelings last night? Deputy General Ming Ji shot him a glance. Though I wasn't at the victory banquet last night, I saw it all when you returned. Drunk as a skunk, clinging to Hua Hua like an octopus, whining about how he wasn't a woman and cursing your cut-sleeve fate. If I were Hua Hua, I'd have wanted to throttle you. Ryan Zhao scratched his head awkwardly. But Hua Hua's so fair and delicate. We've been at sea so long, barely seeing another soul. Day after day with him. How could I not fall for him? Ming Ji rolled his eyes. Hua Hua's been with us for ages. Your longing stares were obvious. He's known how you felt for a while. He wasn't scared off. But we won this battle largely thanks to him, and His Majesty gave no reward. I bet he's upset. Ryan Zhao nodded, his expression turning grave. The Emperor's mind is hard to guess. You go attend to your duties. I'll talk to Hua Hua. After Ming Ji left, Ryan Zhao knocked on my door. Hua Hua, I'm just a fool. Don't take last night's words to heart. We'll always be the best of brothers. Leaning halfway against the headboard, my gaze swept over the black-clad assassins littering the floor before slanting toward the door. I let out a weak sigh. It's unlocked. Creak. The door swung open, and Ryan Zhao immediately spotted over a dozen black-clad figures sprawled haphazardly across the room. His face darkened at once as he strode toward me. Where are you hurt? Why didn't you call for help last night? I shook my head, frustration written all over my face. Not hurt, just exhausted. They didn't come all at once. A new wave every half hour, 6 rounds total, kept me up all night. Ryan Zhao looked me over from head to toe. Only after confirming I had no visible injuries did he relax with a relieved breath. Then, grim-faced, he began searching each of the black-clad figures one by one. Throughout the entire process, his expression remained icy and solemn, completely devoid of his earlier careless demeanor. Their bodies bore no distinctive features, nor did they wear any accessories, but their clothing fabrics differed. Poison pills were hidden in their molars, and several had bitten down to end their lives, leaving you no chance to take prisoners. They were likely all death warriors, though their masters were not the same. He looked up at me, his eyes full of teasing. To encounter an assassination of this caliber right after arriving in the capital, it seems your identity is far from that of a parentless orphan. Back when they saved me, I lied to him about being an orphan with a tragic past, just to stay in the army and secure a meal. I smiled bitterly. I had no choice. I was afraid you'd abandon me. At that time, I had starved for 3 days and nearly been killed by Japanese pirates. Already well acquainted with the ruthlessness of the world, All I wanted was to find a place to scrape by and keep myself alive. Nothing more. He scoffed. Most people repay a life, saving grace by offering themselves in marriage. But you shamelessly stuck around and made me provide for you. Then, he rubbed his nose. Actually, offering myself to you now wouldn't be too late. I shot him an annoyed glare. In your dreams, when encountering an assassination attempt, reporting to the authorities is necessary. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to handle all these black-clad dead assassins filling the room. Can't just wait for them to start rotting. After reporting, the capital magistrate soon arrived with several constables. Accompanying him was a eunuch surnamed Yang. The capital magistrate had the bodies removed and asked me a few questions about whether I was injured and how I subdued the assassins. Upon learning I had lit incense in my room at night, he paused in surprise. Strategist Hua, why would you burn incense in your room for no reason? Did you anticipate assassins last night? I glanced at him coolly from the corner of my eye. Just taking precautions. That's all. The capital magistrate nodded, a flicker in his eyes, said nothing more, and hurried away. Eunuch Yang, however, looked at me, gave a light chuckle, and pointed to a simple blue sedan chair outside the inn. Strategist Hua, His Majesty has sent this old servant to invite you for a discussion in the Imperial Study. When I was led into the Imperial Study, His Majesty was reviewing memorials. The eldest princess, Luna Dugu, whom the Crown Prince mentioned, was recuperating at the Retreat Palace, was seated beside him, gently grinding ink. Though they were siblings, their features bore no resemblance whatsoever. His Majesty seemed particularly affectionate and trusting toward the eldest princess. He discussed many issues from the memorials with her one by one. The eldest princess did not hold back, offering remarkably unique insights. Only occasionally did her gaze, cool and detached, sweep over me, as if sizing me up. His Majesty noticed my arrival, but showed no intention of acknowledging me. Eunuch Yang could only have me kneel and wait outside the door. This wait lasted a full 2 hours. Not until the sun set, painting the sky with crimson clouds, did His Majesty set down his imperial brush and slowly stretch. He then rose leisurely with the eldest princess and exited the imperial study. Walking out arm in arm, they looked less like siblings and more like an elderly couple, chatting and laughing, utterly inseparable. When His Majesty noticed me standing quietly by the door, he paused in mild surprise, as if suddenly remembering something. I forgot about you. It's quite late now. You may return for today. Seeing His Majesty's weary, yet imposing expression, I couldn't help but press my lips together. Your Majesty, my mother said her name was, but His Majesty frowned and cut me off at once. Your mother was merely a dancer I met during my incognito tour of Jiangnan. Since you carry royal blood and have rendered such great service, I shall not treat you unfairly. Return now and await further notice. That's not, I tried to object, but His Majesty's expression suddenly turned cold. The dignity of the royal family must remain untarnished. Speak no more of your mother. Still, I will not mistreat one of royal blood, much less someone who has served with merit. This child looks so much like His Majesty in his youth, but the brow and eyes resemble more that ungrateful wretch. Ugh, just thinking of that person is upsetting. His Majesty also let out a cold snort. Why mention her? It just ruins the mood. Then, taking the eldest princess's hand, he chuckled lightly. Come, I'll take you, my elder sister, to the moon, embracing pavilion at South Lake. I hear they've introduced a new dish there that's quite delicious. My dear elder sister is quite the foodie. After all, the eldest princess gave a delicate laugh and playfully tapped His Majesty's nose with a hint of flirtation. You know me so well. After saying this, she swayed her hips as she boarded the palanquin, striking an alluring pose, and left the palace together with His Majesty, who was in plain clothes, leaving me alone, dumbfounded at the entrance to the imperial study. So, His Majesty summoned me to the palace today, just to have me watch him and the eldest princess display their sibling affection at the imperial study entrance. Just as I was speechless, a palace made from Weiyang Palace arrived, saying the Empress wished to see me. Her Majesty the Empress seems to hold quite a deep misunderstanding of me. Yesterday, she nearly angered herself to death. I wonder if His Highness the Crown Prince explained things to her last night. It's just as well. Today, I'll personally clarify things again. I absolutely can't let her think I'm trying to compete with the Crown Prince for the throne. I even suspect those assassins from yesterday might be connected to her in some way. With these thoughts in mind, I followed the palace maid, but unexpectedly, she led me further and further off the main path. This was definitely not the way to Weiyang Palace. I secretly hid a packet of knockout powder in my sleeve and asked warily, "This isn't the way to Weiyang Palace, is it?" I expected the maid to deny it, but instead, she nodded and pointed toward a dilapidated palace not far away. Her Majesty the Empress said that you, strategist Hua, would certainly want to take a look inside this palace. My heart gave a sudden jolt. This palace looks completely abandoned. Who used to live here? The palace maid looked at me calmly. Princess Amanda. After saying this, she bowed to me and withdrew. Before leaving, she whispered one last sentence. Her ladyship instructed the servant to tell you, His Majesty has never been to Jiangnan. Since strategist Hua can serve as a strategist, she must be clever enough to understand His Majesty's profound intentions. In an instant, I felt a chill run through my entire body. Profound intentions? What profound intentions? Could it be that His Majesty has long known I am Mother's child, and also knew of Mother's suffering, all because the royal dignity must remain untarnished? So my violated mother does not deserve to be mentioned. He would even rather claim I am the daughter of a dancing girl. Therefore, if not for my face bearing a 9/10 resemblance to His Majesty and my considerable military achievements, would His Majesty have refused to acknowledge me at all? I gazed at that dilapidated palace, a wave of bitterness washing over my heart. A lamp was lit inside the palace, where an elderly nanny with silver hair sat, sewing a garment under its glow. The dense, meticulous stitches were exactly like the ones Mother used when making clothes for me. I couldn't help but recall how Mother always told me that Nanny Yao made the prettiest dresses and the most delicious wontons. Are you, Nanny Yao? The old nanny froze abruptly upon hearing my voice. Then, the hand holding the needle and thread began trembling uncontrollably. Princess? She whipped her head around to stare at me, but after a long moment, she shook her head sorrowfully. No, you're not the princess. You're not my little Amanda. My little Amanda was harmed by that imposter princess who stole her nest. Sob, this nanny is useless. I couldn't protect Amanda. I'm useless. Yet through her sobs, she suddenly began to chuckle, her eyes blazing crimson. No, it's my fault. I harmed Amanda. I'm the one who harmed Amanda. The fake princess was born for me. I swapped the swaddling clothes. Heh, no one knows. No one knows. He. I told her not to leave the cold palace, but she insisted, and once she goes out, she'll be recognized. He. Luckily, my Yaya is clever. She captured His Majesty's heart early on. What does that mean? Listening to her delirious ramblings, my temples throbbed. Just as I was about to charge forward and grab her by the collar, a thud sounded. A long arrow pierced her chest. Immediately after, a shower of arrows rained down toward me, and I dodged in panic. Finding a few openings, I dashed toward the direction the arrows came from, but the archer had already withdrawn with the bow. By the time I returned to the palace, Nanny Yao was gone too, without a single drop of blood on the ground. Even the arrows from earlier had vanished without a trace, if not for the recently extinguished candle on the candlestick still being warm. I almost thought everything that just happened was merely a dream. The palace was terribly dilapidated, covered in cobwebs, looking utterly uninhabited. I relit the candle with a fire starter. Holding the candle, I circled inside and out, discovering the palace was just an empty shell. The furniture had long been cleared out, even the gauze from the doors and windows torn away. As I exited the palace and returned to the palace corridor, the palace maid, who had just led me there, suddenly emerged from behind a rockery, bowing respectfully. Her ladyship bids me tell you, she stands with you always, whatever you may choose to do in the future. I gave her a thoughtful glance, said nothing more, and turned to leave. Half a month later, Yangzhou Prefect Zheng Yang was executed along with his entire family for conclusive evidence of treason and collusion with the enemy. The world would never know a princess had once met her end within those walls, nor would they know Zheng Yang had a daughter named Flora Yang. The reason for this name, because Zheng Yang believed that the daughter of a courtesan would inevitably be fickle and promiscuous. But mother gave me another name, Hua Mantian. With the downfall of the Yangzhou magistrate, His Majesty's rewards for me soon followed. Due to my royal lineage and military achievements, I was enfeoffed as the Prince of the Seas, with the Ryukyu Islands and the Eastern Isles as my domain. The entire edict did not contain a single word about my mother. Ryan Zhao took the officers and soldiers to celebrate for me at the finest tavern in the capital, after several rounds of drinks. Even though I had avenged my great grievance and been enfeoffed as a prince, I simply couldn't bring myself to smile. Ming Ji couldn't help but ask me, Hua Hua, you've soared to the heavens in one step. So why do you still look so troubled? I didn't answer him, just kept downing cup after cup of wine. Ryan Zhao stared at me for a long time without saying a word. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he snatched away my wine jug and grasped the hand, holding my cup. Stop drinking. If something's on your mind, just say it. We're all brothers here. No one will laugh at you. But I gently pushed his hand away. Ryan Zhao, you should return to Jiangnan. We walk different paths and cannot scheme together. After you go back, marry a beautiful wife and live the rest of your days in peace. Ryan Zhao froze, and something in his eyes seemed to shatter in that instant. What do you mean? I was just trying to comfort you out of goodwill. And you. Yet, in the end, he only let out a bitter laugh. Do you know, actually, I wasn't drunk that night. I just wanted to borrow the drunkenness to confess my feelings to you, to see if you'd be disgusted. I looked at him calmly. I am disgusted, utterly repulsed. Two men have no future together. So from now on, you take your broad road, and I'll cross my single plank bridge. Ryan Zhao, let's not see each other again. Ryan Zhao swayed, as if my words had drained all the strength from him. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, nothing came out. The brothers who had been celebrating for me just moments ago now exchanged awkward glances, their laughter gone. Ming Ji sneered. Of course, you're now the Prince of the Seas. How could you possibly still care for us common folk? With that, he grabbed Ryan Zhao and turned to leave. The other brothers gradually set down their chopsticks and left with grim expressions. In an instant, the once lively tavern fell silent. What are you staring at? He made it perfectly clear. Are you really that spineless? Ming Ji's frustrated voice carried up from the street below, chastising weakness. I turned to look and saw Ryan Zhao standing across the street, gazing up at me quietly. His eyes were filled with unresolvable hurt. I simply closed the window, cutting off his view. Perhaps he was truly, utterly disappointed in me. 3 days later, Ryan Zhao set out with his troops to return to Jiangnan, and news of our falling out quickly spread throughout the capital. Have you heard? The Prince of the Seas and the Grand Admiral had a rift. Rumor says they shared a forbidden romance for years. Rumor has it the Prince of the Seas took a fancy to the dashingly handsome Crown Prince, losing interest in that dark-skinned lad, the Grand Admiral of the Seas. Ugh, cut. Sleeve affairs are utterly repulsive. When will the Prince of the Seas get out of the capital? I fear such depravity might corrupt our children. Soon, I hear he'll leave for his fiefdom after the autumn hunt. It's way out in the outer seas. Far away. Honestly, it's the first time I've heard of a fiefdom being granted in the outer seas. Shows how little His Majesty cares. Just the son of a dancing girl. Gossip spread wildly through the capital, but I paid it no mind. When the day of the autumn hunt arrived, I donned black riding attire and silently followed at the rear of the procession. The hunting grounds lay south of the city, passing by the peach grove in the southern district. I recalled the letters in Mother's keepsake box. I couldn't help but pause and linger. Autumn had long since set in, leaving the peach trees bare. I imagined the entire grove blanketed in peach blossoms, and my mother, barely 16, dancing gracefully beneath them. What is the Prince of the Seas looking at? Suddenly, a voice interrupted me. I turned to see the crown prince in blue robes, gazing at me with serene eyes. I answered instinctively, admiring the peach blossoms. Huh. The crown prince glanced at the barren peach tree and chuckled softly. The Prince of the Sea's perspective is truly extraordinary. With that, he spurred his horse forward ahead of me. As I moved to follow, flames suddenly erupted through the peach grove, thick smoke billowing, trapping the procession ahead. Protect His Majesty, protect His Majesty. But the autumn, dry peach trees and carpet of dead leaves fueled the blaze, making it nearly impossible to extinguish. Fortunately, the procession hadn't ventured deep and quickly retreated. To escape the flames, His Majesty and the eldest princess abandoned their carriage, supporting each other as they fled. Her Majesty the Empress was escorted out personally by the crown prince. Who did this? Cough. His Majesty, his hair singed by the fire, fumed with rage and prepared to vent his wrath upon the ministers. I did it, standing in the thick smoke. I tilted my head and chuckled softly at him. You. His Majesty froze, glaring at me furiously, but just as he was about to erupt, his body suddenly went limp and he collapsed to the ground. Not just him. At this moment, outside the peach grove, no one but me could remain standing. Poison in the smoke? You. What do you want? I've treated you well. Have you gone mad? Mad? Yes. I've been mad for a long time. I lost my sanity the day I began watching Mother endure humiliation from different men. Her Majesty the Empress looked at me with a complex expression. Prince of the Seas, are you plotting a rebellion? I shook my head and pulled out a small notebook from my robe. I looked at His Majesty with utmost seriousness. Your Majesty, along with Her Majesty the Empress, the eldest princess, and the crown prince, none of you ever cared to speak with me or listen to what I had to say. Left with no other choice, I resorted to this desperate measure to make you all listen quietly. Yes, ever since arriving in the capital, they've all acted so high and mighty. I could only listen when they spoke. Every time I tried to express myself, I was interrupted, as if I had no right to speak at all. What do you want to say? The eldest princess looked at me coldly, feigning composure as she asked. I tilted my head and smiled at her. About how your mother, Nanny Yao, swapped you and my mother in the cradle, making you the doted upon princess, while my mother grew up in the cold palace, eating husks and scraps. Her face turned pale as she snarled, "Nonsense." But I ignored her. I simply opened the little booklet and began reading earnestly. My name is Amanda. I'm 6 years old. Today, Brother Hua came to the cold palace again to teach me to write. But on his way back, Princess Yu pushed him into the water. Oh heavens, it's winter. Brother Hua fell ill from the cold and hasn't visited me for 3 months. I sneaked out to see him at the Eastern Palace, but Nanny Yao caught me and scolded me harshly. By the way, he's the Crown Prince's study companion. I'm 10 years old now, and I saw Nanny Yao secretly meeting with Princess Yu. So it turns out I'm the real princess. I want to expose them. But Nanny Yao has always been so kind to me. Does she have some hidden hardship? Heavens, when I escaped the cold palace, I saw that the crown prince and I looked exactly alike. Nanny Yao dragged me back and said twin births are inauspicious in the royal family. If 2 children are identical, one must die. So she swapped me with her own child, sacrificing her own to save me. I believed her. But Brother Hua didn't believe it. He revealed the truth to Father Emperor. After Father Emperor saw me, he granted me the title Princess Amanda and bestowed upon me residence in the Green Lotus Hall. Father Emperor let Nanny Yao continue caring for my daily needs. Princess Yu remained a princess. And compared to me, Father Emperor and Mother Empress seemed to favor Princess Yu more. Brother Crown Prince also preferred Princess Yu, saying I was lifeless and dull like a block of wood, utterly unlikable. Only Brother Hua liked me. In a few days, I'll be of age for the hair pinning ceremony. Brother Hua plans to ask Father Emperor for my hand in marriage. So happy. It's over. Father Emperor has arranged a marriage between Princess Yu and Brother Hua. But Princess Yu and Crown Prince have been secretly sleeping together at night. Why does she still want to steal my brother Hua? The Crown Prince already has a Crown Princess. So why is he still sleeping with Princess Yu? I just don't understand. Brother Hua said he would elope with me. The Crown Prince and Princess Yu kept dragging me to play chess with them, even though they never cared to play with me before. To escape, I bought some sleeping draft from a young eunuch. It was clearly just a sleeping draft. So why are they coughing up blood? I didn't poison them. I didn't. Brother Hua, you believe me, don't you? Brother Hua, I've been stripped of my title and reduced to a commoner. I can wait for you in the peach grove now. But in the end, Mother never waited for her brother Hua to come. All that came was endless humiliation. This little booklet was something I found under the broken wooden bed in the main bedroom of the Green Lotus Hall. Mother liked to hide important things under the bed. That day, as I was leaving the Green Lotus Hall, I suddenly remembered Mother's little habit and turned back. Sure enough, beneath the blue stone under the bed, this small booklet was found. I carried the booklet and walked before His Majesty. Your Majesty, the poisoning was staged by yourselves, wasn't it? His Majesty snorted coldly. I have no idea what you're talking about. What benefit would I gain by framing my own sister? Besides, you just produce some random notebook and start reading from it, trying to stir up trouble. The world isn't full of fools. Not admitting it, that's fine. I looked at the guards and ministers scattered across the floor and smiled. I untied a backpack from the horse. Under the horrified gazes of His Majesty and the ministers, I pulled out one after another cruel-looking torture devices and some bizarre medicine bottles. As I took them out, I cheerfully explained their uses. This one is for bloodletting. This one for skinning. This one makes hair fall out. This one can cleanly extract the Achilles tendon. His Majesty's beard trembled as he struggled to maintain composure. Give me the antidote immediately, and I may consider pardoning you in light of your military merits. I shot him an exasperated glance. I'm not Mother, to be foolishly deceived by your sweet talk. With that, I gave him a mysterious smile. Your Majesty, do you know when I'm happiest? As I spoke, I took out a small vial and sprinkled the powder inside bit by bit onto the eldest princess's face. The eldest princess shook her head in panic, but she was too weak to avoid it. What is this? Get away, get away. I blinked, baring my teeth in a grin just like Ryan Zhao does. Well, the time I'm happiest is when I've caught an enemy and start the interrogation. Oh, by the way, this stuff I just sprinkled on you. Zheng Yang, that scum, loved using it. It's called spring passion powder. I gently patted her cheek. You're quite familiar with this. Isn't it exactly what you gave Zheng Yang 16 years ago? Hearing the words spring passion powder, the eldest princess glanced at the thousands of guards, ministers, and their families surrounding her and panicked completely. No, please, give me the antidote. I can't lose the royal dignity in front of so many people. The drug took effect quickly. The eldest princess's cheeks soon flushed crimson. Her waist swayed like a water snake as she panted and leaned toward His Majesty. Brother, Your Majesty, save me. I feel so unwell. His Majesty's face darkened, yet he strained to distance himself from her. He glared coldly at me. How long do you intend to keep this up? I ignored him, sitting cross-legged on the floor and watching the eldest princess struggle to tear at her own clothes. I took out another bottle of powder and shook it in front of her. Do you know what this is? It's itching powder. As I spoke, I poured it onto her. She shook her head in panic. Soon, she was both shaking and laughing uncontrollably. No, ha ha ha. No, ha ha ha. You wretched bastard. I should have killed that bitch Amanda Dugga back then. Ha ha ha. But watching her stripped of nobility and humiliated to death by those lowly men was quite satisfying too. Ha ha ha. And that bastard Greenhua. I lied to him saying Amanda Dugga was dead, and he actually believed it. Ha ha ha. He hanged himself in this very peach grove that very night. Ha ha ha. Why? It was I who met him first. Why did he have to fall for that bitch? I watched her quietly. When these two powders are administered together, few can endure it. It was only a matter of time before she confessed. I once used these very things to force a female Japanese pirate to reveal the location of the pirate islands of Japan. The eldest princess, writhing in the mud like a worm, truly shocked the ministers and guards present. They turned their faces away, unable to look directly. At the same time, they were terrified, fearing I might use these methods on their wives and daughters. The family members of those ministers paled and trembled, clearly terrified. I chuckled lightly. I patted the eldest princess's cheek. "Why do you hate my mother so much?" The eldest princess's face was scraped raw against the coarse ground, now smeared with blood. She glared at me with a gaze both venomous and unnervingly tender. Hatred. Of course she hated me. Why was she born the eldest princess of the empress, while I was just the bastard child of a lowly maid and a guard's illicit affair? So it was you who harmed my mother? You sold her to the brothel, letting Zheng Yang buy her back? Yes, the eldest princess, likely realizing all was lost, offered no further rebuttal. I nodded with a faint smile. Harming royalty is a crime punishable by death, but I won't let you die too easily. With that, I grabbed her by the collar and threw her into the group of guards. I whistled sharply toward them. "If you want to live, use whatever strength you have left and give her a proper welcome." The guards exchanged uneasy glances, but soon grew restless, affected by the powder dusted on the princess. The scene around the eldest princess quickly became unbearable to witness. His Majesty's face darkened to the extreme. "Hua Mantion, with this commotion, the capital magistrate will soon arrive with the imperial guards. It's not too late for you to stop now." I waved my hand dismissively. "It doesn't matter. I never intended to stop anyway. After avenging Mother, I planned to end my own life. I never meant to live." After speaking, I picked up a multi-layered floret knife from the pile of torture instruments on the ground. I gestured with it near his face. "Your Majesty, it's because of this face that you couldn't let Mother go, isn't it? After all, the royal family's greatest fear is a substitution scheme. What are you trying to do?" He stared at me in terror, straining to lean back, trying desperately to avoid the floret knife in my hand. But having been dosed with my specially concocted tendon, softening powder, where could he possibly escape to? Nothing much. It's just that seeing this face so similar to Mother's irritates me. Just like how you were irritated by Mother's face back then. After saying this, I began to slash at his face with the floret knife. His Majesty's terrified screams of pain pierced the sky. The ministers cried out in unison. "Your Majesty, Prince of the Seas, His Majesty may have wronged your mother, but he has treated you well. Indeed, he set aside past grievances and even granted you the title of Prince of the Seas." I scoffed. Had I not achieved unparalleled military feats, would he have even known who I was, let alone granted me this title? It was merely to silence public opinion. Since arriving in the capital, I've been targeted by assassins every night. The entire city knows this. Yet he never once asked why. Why? Because those assassins were sent by him. He couldn't bear the sight of my face. As I spoke, I carved His Majesty's face into squid, like patterns. Incidentally, this blade technique was originally used by coastal folk to score squid. I found it quite effective and added it to my collection of torture tools. "Ah, you beast." His Majesty clutched his face, writhing on the ground as mud quickly caked his wounds. The Empress and Crown Prince watched it all unfold calmly, not a trace of fear on their faces. When they saw me approach them, a sharp knife in hand, the Empress froze momentarily. "Prince of the Seas, I don't recall having done anything to wrong your mother, have I? On the contrary, I even delivered Nanny Yao right to your doorstep." I tossed the dagger before her and sneered coldly. That wasn't Nanny Yao at all. The real Nanny Yao, after learning her own daughter had plotted against my mother, chased her all the way to Yangzhou and dashed herself to death against the magistrate's office there. My mother was aware of this. At that time, Zheng Yang was quite fond of her and took her out to meet guests. On their return to the estate, they happened to witness a nanny's fatal collision against the Yang residence gates. It was my mother who arranged for her burial. I stared coldly at the Empress and the Crown Prince. Did it feel good to use me as your blade? Did you think yourselves clever? I may be ruthless in my actions, but I've never possessed the virtue of self-sacrifice. I nudged the dagger on the ground with my foot, my gaze toward the Empress frigid. Since you were able to orchestrate the fake Nanny Yao, you must know everything about what happened back then. Yet you did nothing to stop it, choosing instead to watch the tigers fight. Considering you did not actively harm my mother, I will not torment you. End your own life. The Empress closed her eyes, and under the Crown Prince's panicked gaze, she laboriously picked up the sharp blade. Looking back, I indeed have reasons to deserve death, but I hope the Prince of the Seas will remember that during the victory banquet, I used my illness to stop you from revealing your origins and had my subordinate warn you of the assassins. Spare the Crown Prince for that. The Crown Prince shook his head vigorously, lunging forward to snatch the knife from her hand. Mother, don't, I am useless, not worth sparing. The Empress looked tenderly at the Crown Prince. Live well. With those words, she drew the blade across her neck. At the critical moment, a stone shot from afar, knocking the knife from the Empress's hand. I turned to see the capital magistrate rushing over with the Imperial Guards, along with Ryan Zhao and others who should have been in Jiangnan. Hua hua, don't act recklessly, Ryan Zhao yelled. I smiled bitterly. This bastard is like a stubborn piece of adhesive plaster. No matter how you try to shake him off, he just sticks around. I sighed, scooped up His Majesty, who was rolling on the ground, along with the eldest princess, whose dignity had been utterly trampled by the guards, and swiftly dashed into the peach grove ablaze with fire. Hua hua, don't go. Behind me echoed the bastard's cries. Facing the scorching heat of the peach grove, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow in my heart. Fool, I adore you too.